Um, all right, this is a meeting of the special meeting of the Rules Committee of the representative town meeting. And I'll call this meeting to order. We have a quorum. Uh, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes for January 5th.
So moved.
Mike, a second.
Second.
Thank you. Amy, any changes? Okay. Then all in favor of approving the minutes for January 5th, say aye.
Aye.
Hands. Everything good. It's unanimous. Any noes? I'll just check. No noes. Good. I moved this item, the sump pump removal ordinance up front out of courtesy for visiting firemen and a request from Jack actually too. But this item has been worked on extensively. I didn't realize that we had assigned the committees in October until I happened to look back. So it's been on the boards. Well, we can have, I don't know who has some thoughts. I've talked to the sewer commission. I mean, members of it, they're very much want to get this passed if they can, because at least to get it on the RTM agenda so that they can meet some of their timing requirements. But thoughts, please.
Is Patrick Dean on?
Yes.
Yeah.
And David?
Yeah.
They're all here.
David's here.
Just confirm.
Since Public Works is primary, Patrick, why don't you start?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everyone. I trust you can hear me.
And great to have you here, Patrick.
And it's nice to be here. Thanks, Seth. So, yes, Public Works has been primary on this since whenever rules assigned it in the last legislative term. The quick recap you'll recall is that this was brought to the floor, or a version of this ordinance was brought to the floor, and rightly there were some concerns raised that hadn't been addressed in that ordinance, and other concerns that wouldn't necessarily be addressed in an ordinance, but needed to be addressed in the overall picture of the sump pump removal process. And so I think went back to committees. In the meantime, we've had a new legislative session. The chairman of the Public Works Committee has had a family issue that so the ball, so to speak, dropped into my lap more recently. And I think likewise there was a change of the chairmanship on TGS&A, and so there was sort of, one might call this maybe not a perfect storm, but certainly some confusion. But Public Works has remained centered on this issue. We have been working on this issue with the Public Works Department and the Sewer Commission now for at least 2 years in trying to get this process pulled forward. We know that it's a novel process in the sense that Sewer Commission is, attempting to get authority to impose some fines, and it might I'll recap it very quickly. The whole point of this ordinance really is to empower the Sewer Commission to impose. They're simply trying to collect information about sump pump connections, and they've been trying to do that now for upwards of, from my recollection, at least 4 to 5 years, and the response rate has been very low. And so the decision was taken to try and see if we couldn't try and impose fines to try and get a better response rate, to find out where all of this illicit water, which is costing ratepayers upwards well over $1 million a year in illicit water, clean water, if you will, going into our sanitary sewer system. So that was the genesis of this. And the version of the ordinance that we brought forward was an attempt to, in the fall, was to empower the sewer commission to impose fines so that we can get information, so the sewer commission can get information to try and address this issue. And so in the meantime, it's gone back to the three committees now, because I think for some reason F&B also is going to do some sort of a report on this. I haven't spoken to Jack in detail recently, but he does want to do some sort of a report from his perspective. And the structuring of the latest ordinance, I think, sort of fell through the cracks. TGSNA brought forward more recently their version. The Public Works Committee has not addressed this version yet, though I know from our past work that we have concerns about the wording in the paragraph of the ordinance, one of the paragraphs of the ordinance. So the committee is not going to meet until Thursday. I also understand the TGSNA, and David can address this, has approved this version, but Public Works has not. So that's and I understanding the sensitivity of timing, that the RTM meeting is on the 16th and we're meeting on the 12th. So we attempted to hold a meeting on the 5th. We just had issues with a quorum, and so it's been delayed. But I think I can say with some level of confidence that there's going to be concerns about some of the wording in this ordinance, which was not in the fall, the version that was put forth in the fall.
Okay. So I guess David chairs TGSNA.
Sure. So,
and sit at the table, that way we can actually think you're better.
Thank you.
You're back here in the shadow.
Yeah.
all right, I didn't want to be presumptuous. All right, so TGSNA met obviously in October when this first came up, and we had some very serious concerns. And I think the vote of TGSNA was that we just don't know enough, and we needed to propose that the ordinance be tabled by the RTM, which it was. And we took it back up in February, and we were actually supposed to meet jointly with the Public Works Committee at our February, I think, 12 meeting. And for some reason, there were crossed wires, and Public Works met upstairs. We met up downstairs with Ed and members of the Sewer Commission to discuss all this. And, our approach has been to look at the ordinance from a statutory and like a writing concept. I mean, we didn't really look at the underlying reasons for it. Ed explained those to us. The Sewer Commission explained why they wanted it. But we looked at it in a way of like, how can we protect the property owners? Because we heard the concerns on the floor of the RTM. We heard concerns in TGSNA last October that there were issues with the ordinance, that there was concerns that we had an unelected body, the Sewer Commission, imposing fines, which is pretty unique, I think, in the town of Darien. And they're asking for us to delegate the RTM's authority to them to fine homeowners or property owners in the town. So we took an approach that, well, okay, if you want to do this, we first looked at the regulations very closely, and we actually suggested a number of changes to the regulations, which happily the Sewer Commission has adopted in its March 3 meeting. But we thought, well, look, the Sewer Commission is trying to ask the RTM to take our fining authority and use it in our name. So the RTM should have the ability to review what they're going to do with it. And if they implement that ordinance or that authority in a way that is somehow contrary to the will of the RTM or upsets a lot of people in the town, then the RTM should have the ability to take back its authority without repealing the entire ordinance or that we're giving to them. But if we want to make tweaks to how they're fining people or how they're implementing their fining power, we should have the ability to say so. So we drafted the limitation of delegation of authority and discussed it at our March 5 meeting. And our committee was at least satisfied with it. I think there are still concerns in the committee about the whole concept generally of the whole sump pump compliance statements. I think I've heard concerns from other RTM members that they're not as comfortable as they would like with this whole process. But we understand it's a real problem. And I think Patrick addressed that the I&I inflow into our sewers is getting out of control and it needs to be addressed in some way. So we know we have a problem in the town, and TGSNA is on board with trying to address it, but we want to do so in a way that preserves the RTM's authority to oversee the delegation of authority that it's giving away to the sewer commission. So that's why we agreed to revise the ordinance in the way that we did. Now, Public Works has amendments or changes. We're happy to address that. And maybe based on Patrick's comments, if they have tweaks to the language, we're not going to have this ready for the March 16th meeting. That's certainly possible. And that's, I don't have a problem with that. I'd rather do things right than fast. That's the way I've always worked, my professional life. And I think that's the way we should work on the RTM and not just rush things through for the sake of rushing things through.
Bobby's there, but I thought the sewer commission has, by state statute, the ability to fine $100 a day, but our fine is for compliance to fill out.
No, the sewer commission does not have authority to fine, only the RTM does.
I thought the state statute gave them. Well, I mean, it's yes.
Yeah, let Bobby, right.
Okay, Bobby.
Up there.
Here you
Great.
go, Bob.
This is it's a legal conundrum. We have searched up and down for bases of fining authority. There is, within the statutory language itself, no. There is no explicit language saying the sewer commission as water pollution control authority can fine you for activity. It is certainly implied because the sewer commission has the authority to adopt its own rules and regulations. Implicit in that is that if you're violating them, there must be some sort of penalty. On the one hand, I've looked high and low. We have found no explicit case law outlining what that authority may be or if it even exists. On the other hand, you do have things like the Model FOG program from DEEP, which do envision the ability of local WPCAs to fine people for FOG regulation violations. So clearly, to some degree, the state envisions that a WPCA has fining authority. How that interplays with how Darien cross-references its WPCA and sort of bifurcates it between the Board of Selectmen and the Sewer Commission, it creates a bit of a pickle. So going back to the very beginning, I advised the Sewer Commission during their public hearing last fall that to be safe, in the event of legal challenge or legal issue, it is better to rely on the RTM's authority to fine under state statute, which is very clear. So hence, we've been through the RTM now, really to gain, as David put it, the delegation of this fining authority to the Sewer Commission, really just because this is a very unique, novel program. I don't have a nice state model code to adopt. And because of that, my recommendation has been from the beginning that we rely on the most clear authority we can find, which in this case is the RTM's authority to approve and adopt fines.
And so given the reservations expressed on the floor of the RTM last October and what I've heard in our committee and in the last couple of meetings and what I've heard generally from some RTM members, we thought this reservation of authority would give some comfort to RTM members who feel uncomfortable with delegating our fining authority to an unelected body. And this just gives us the opportunity to review the regulations, and we can act or not act, but if we don't act and there turns out to be a problem with the implementation down the road, the RTMs can still go back and look at the regs and say, well, wait, we don't like the way this is working out, so let's have this regulation changed. And I envision this as being a way to work together with the Sewer Commission.
So, Seth,
Yes,
if I understand correctly, also to the extent TGSNA has made changes, this has been reviewed and approved by the Sewer Commission. Isn't that correct, Bobby?
In substance, yes. During TGSNA, TGSNA made one or two minor revisions that did not change the substance. The substance of what David proposed or TGSNA proposed, the delegation of enforcement authority provision, has been reviewed by the Sewer Commission. They did not express any issue with it. They voted to recommend that it be adopted by the RTM.
Okay,
That's confirmed.
yes.
yeah, Patrick
wants.
Yeah, I didn't attend that meeting, but I watched the same meeting, and I invite you all to do the same because we all have nothing else to do. But quite honestly, it wasn't unanimous. In that, and I'll let the commission speak for themselves. My read of that meeting was that it was a reluctant approval because the concern is, and it is the concern of members of the Public Works Committee that. Well, step back. The RTM always has the authority. The RTM creates all the boards and the commissions in town, and they have the overriding authority on all of these boards and commissions, and would always have the authority to.
No. Wait a minute.
No, they don't. The RTM doesn't have
through not through look, the RTM controls the town charter, which creates the boards and commissions, correct?
Well, yeah, but.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
that-
regardless,
To try
Okay.
that would be,
I mean,
Dicey,
the sewer
but-
commission is pretty
yeah.
my point is,
Sort of state law creates
I mean,
these boards.
it would be.
Yeah,
I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, well, but the point is that the RTM isn't giving up its authority. They still have the authority. The concern at Public Works Committee is that the 60 days notice prior to changes, we just think it's onerous. The sewer commission, in its history, at least to my knowledge, really hasn't done anything to warrant that they need, to be watched or reporting to the RTM changes that they're going to make relative to this ordinance. They've always been above board. It's always the commission has always been run by some very astute and dedicated volunteers. We're all after the same thing, and that is to look after both the town and the ratepayers. I don't think anybody is trying to. In fact, I've heard the commission say a number of times the last thing they want to do is impose fines, but they have to get information, and this is the way to do it. So, or to encourage the ratepayers to provide the information they need to see if we can track down this INI. So, I don't think that the RTM is, absent this limitation on delegated enforcement authority paragraph, is giving up its right to go back and oversee the commission's operations in some ways.
Amy?
I'm a little confused with what we're doing right now. I don't think that the rules committee is where we should be debating this ordinance. I think the question before the rules committee is this ordinance ready for the RTM or not?
Right.
And it sounds to me like it is not, because we need Public Works to take a look at it, and if they have changes, suggest them to TGS&A.
Yeah, it sounds like there's there's been a gap here in communication. And in putting this on, that wasn't apparent, putting it on the agenda. It wasn't until we got we've discovered the gap sort of as a little bit after the fact, because it looked like we had the resolution set and that everybody was in agreement. Didn't realize we have a problem with Public Works. So this has to me, this has to get resolved because you don't want to be debating this on the floor of the RTM. That's not going to get you anywhere except maybe people tabling the motion until it all got solved anyway.
That sounds like a lot of work for the next 7 days.
Yeah, yeah.
I also would point out that at least what my recollection was that we had public health and safety assigned as well, and I don't know what their status is and whether they've reviewed the most up to date.
They have a meeting next Tuesday.
Public health and safety got the,
They have a meeting Thursday. They have a
meeting tomorrow. They got the original, or one version, I should say, of the resolution and the ordinance, and then they did get the updated TGS&A. They did receive that on Friday, but I don't know how much time their committee has, but they're also involved.
Were
Right.
they at the meeting when you had Ed and Sewer Commission come?
No, it's just TGS&A.
Just you?
Yeah.
Okay, versus again, in a perfect world, we try,
It was supposed
in
to
the
be.
future, we'll try and do all three.
It was supposed to be a joint meeting with Public Works, and we were, to be honest, kind of surprised Public Works didn't attend. So
It sounds like it was just a
it was just, yeah,
miscommunication.
I don't know what happened.
Yep. But that, I was just asking about, was public health and safety invited?
No, I haven't heard from them. Maybe I might not have known that they were assigned at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe we need to decide if they need to be assigned.
Right.
But
They believe they are.
Okay.
They believe they were assigned, do they want to?
They were assigned.
To be honest,
I think they were, sorry.
They were assigned. I guess I'm saying we have the ability to say they don't need to. report on it,
Well,
but
we've already met to talk.
in any event, my going back to my original
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
I don't think this is based on what we've heard tonight. I don't think it's appropriate for us to debate the point in this room, and I also don't think it sounds like it's ready for the RTM. That's my vote.
I don't disagree with you. Patrick, is there, if I recall, we have a PWC meeting Thursday.
Correct. The 12th.
Depending on the outcome of that meeting, does it make sense at that point to decide whether or not this item's ready or not? I don't know if there's gonna be input or not.
Item on the agenda to vote on, so if we're gonna
Yeah.
pull, if we're gonna not have the RTM
Yep.
meeting,
I got you.
we don't want to be waiting
I
till
was
last minute
thinking that.
again.
It seems like a lot of risk, because it means that they would have to
If there's no,
approve it as it is. Because if they made any changes, then it needs to go back to TGSNA, which therefore is not gonna be able to meet between Thursday and Monday.
I agree. If that's the path that goes, I agree 100%. I'm just not certain that was how it's gonna play out. But Patrick, I wasn't at the last meeting, so I don't wanna stick my nose in here. I just wanted to get your sense. See, I get the
No,
sense
you're-
you think there's maybe modifications or recommendations.
A majority vote for Public Works to have it then come back to TGSNA? I'm just asking process.
Yeah, I think that's a
No.
fair question. How do you
Yeah.
resolve, how do you guys resolve, what is the resolution put forth with to the full body?
Well, I mean, just like anything else, I mean, we'll do a majority report and a minority report ultimately. But I think that in the interest of, to follow on David's point about not rushing it and having something that we're not happy with, if there's an opportunity to work together, the two committees to work together and come up with a better product, then we should take the time to do that rather than saying, you know, if you've got 10 people on your committee and 6 of them say they're okay with it, like, let's try to make the best product we have here. I think Patrick's raised some concerns that are substantive. It's not, you know, a comma or something like this. Yeah.
No, but I think, we ought to see movement here. Because we've had it since October,
Yeah, but
so,
said.
We-
Patrick wants to say something.
Yeah.
Patrick says something.
no, I'm just expressing my own thought about this. So, I think you want to have a sense that, there's a way to reach some sort of an agreement on what's going to come before the RTM. Because if you start from a place of minority reports, it makes the RTM very uncomfortable, and you're liable, you could quite likely not get action. Are there any other folks who had a thought? Well, I think everybody's had a chance to talk. Yeah, go ahead, Patrick.
I'll be brief. Look, I'm happy to commit that we can get this resolved in the next month, certainly. There is a short fuse. This has been going on for 4 years plus. And so and this is costing ratepayers a lot of money. So there is there should be a short fuse on this and that's in the interest of everyone. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to come up with a version that that everybody should, agree on. We're talking about sewer water here. We ought to be able to agree on this, and how to resolve this. I understand and respect the differences that we have with TGSNA, but we'll work it out. And I think we have to. I'm willing to commit that we got to have it done before the April meeting.
Then, yes, Krista?
Just purely on a process question. If you have a scenario where now you have 4 committees opining on this resolution. 5.
Could be.
F&B,
That is-
Public Health and Safety, TGSNA, and Public Works.
Well, that's right, we didn't do it, that's right.
Okay, in the event you have 4 committees and 4 committees have a majority vote on their version of this.
No, we're not going to do that.
How do you avoid that, Amy? That's my question. How do you make sure if TGSNA have a unanimous opinion on their version. And Public Works
Let's,
is unanimous on their version.
let's not start worrying about hypotheticals. The
Well, right now you do have two different opinions.
No, we don't have, we have, the Public Works hasn't voted, has not reviewed and hasn't voted. Let them review and vote. And if they have changes, go back to TGS&A, same thing with Public Health and Safety.
Yeah.
That's-
I agree with that. That's
We'll just keep
normal.
working.
Process and
Yeah.
TGS&A ultimately pulls it together.
Ultimately, the rules will have to decide what the appropriate resolution and ordinance is to go before the RTM, and then the committees will just give their respective reports.
And, Patrick,
Craig has joined the call.
Yeah. I don't know if it's relevant to say now, but there's also gonna be an Public Works appropriation that'll be on the April agenda.
There's a bunch of stuff for April.
Right, but I'm saying it's.
That's a
So
bonding.
we'll have, all right. So, are there more comments? All right, well then, if you would like, then I would take a motion to perhaps to table this to the next meeting of the Rules Committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, hang on, it's no
Yeah.
disrespect, Mr. Moderator. We weren't taking any action here, were we?
Just putting on the
No, you're
agenda.
putting it on the
Yeah,
agenda.
For the RTM, we're not tabling for rules.
Well, rules will vote next month.
Yeah, right. That's,
I just might understand.
That's
So
what-
I can get it correct on the minutes.
all right.
And then the most,
But have an ordinance to approve in time.
Yeah, I understand.
and then obviously, we said before, that's the one voting item. Then we'd have to make a decision
Right.
not to have the RTM meeting.
So next.
That's appropriate.
So did
We're gonna wanna-
did I miss something, or are we not being scheduled for the March agenda, or are we being scheduled for the March agenda?
Well, the first thing we're doing is tabling,
Craig,
I joined late. I apologize. I had to be in the F&B meeting.
Putting the
I came when that
summary
was done.
Craig, to respond to your question, the Public Works Committee has not had a chance to review the proposed ordinance yet. They'll be doing so on Thursday. So we expect this matter to be on the April RTM agenda.
Because after their meeting, it's highly likely we'll have to go back to TGS&A, and there won't be opportunity to do that between Thursday night and Monday.
The extra month is difficult for us if there's any way to avoid it. Puts
Can you
us
tell
into
us
a time.
why?
Yeah.
So- Has some information why? Thanks.
Yeah, so we send out sewer user invoices, fees, the bills, and I think we make a decision in August, and they get sent out in September, maybe received in October, something like that. And we were trying to get the affidavit out in sufficient time so that for folks that were non-responsive after 90 days would see the fee, the fine appear in their user bill. And that was the timeline that we were on. I'm not sure waiting another month allows us to remain on that timeline, kind of with our normally scheduled fees for the year. And so that's why we've been trying to pursue this as diligently as we have. To me, I feel like, you know, I wasn't here for Patrick's comment, but I kind of understand the nature of them based on some conversations, some emails and conversations today. But this, you know, the ordinance has been seen by Public Works several times. Yes, there is some new language in it now. But instead of assuming that we're going to have to go to the drawing board after the vote, I would rather assume that things are going to work out. And if we have to table from the RTM's agenda in March, so we can table from the RTM's agenda, but have them make that decision, but give us the opportunity to get there.
Yes. And for a few old gray hairs sitting around the table here, that's not where you want to be with this. This is not a plain vanilla. It's an important and complex in many ways, item. And so you'd like to have everybody, together. It sounds like.
We've been trying very hard at that.
If the differences seem irreconcilable, that might be a different question, but that's not what we're hearing. We're hearing that these committees want to try and get this worked out. And so, you're in a much better position in the full body of the RTM if the committees have worked this out and, we have something that has a good shot at getting passed.
And you understand that's exactly what we've been doing, right? We've been this whole process has been about making sure that we have consensus widely. So I appreciate that. But if you don't feel like you can do anything for schedule, that's your decision. You guys know your process better than I do, but I at least felt as though I had to make the pitch because schedule does have an impact on us.
Amy, you had a hand?
No, I was just gonna comment that, I think Seth really said it, we're trying to do this so that we can get an approval of the ordinance. That's why we're postponing. And we definitely understand the importance. We understand that everyone's been working very hard at getting this done. But at the same time, we don't want to rush it through in this last week when there are still committees that haven't met on the revised ordinance and have a repeat of what we had in October. So we want to make sure that what we send to the RTM is very clean and gets an approval for it. That's the goal. I think we're all on the same page.
All right.
We're trying to get a groundswell. Sorry, I couldn't.
I'm just waiting to see when we start trending.
Frank, are your folks scheduled to be with public health and safety tomorrow night on their call?
Yes, I believe so. Right, Bob? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Any action need to be taken, Seth?
What we need to do first is, I would say table, further discussion on this ordinance, until the next Rules Committee meeting. And, so that we give the committees a chance to reconcile things and come forward with something that looks like it would have a good shot at passing in the RTM. We don't want another tabling of the thing on the RTM.
I'll make that
So,
motion.
yes, since you're taking the notes, go ahead.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Great. Further discussion? All in favor? Okay, opposed? I see none. Okay, we've agreed to table the item. So this was the only item that would be on the agenda for March 16th of the RTM. So it looks like I would then take a motion to cancel the March 16 meeting and look to April. Is that, how does that sound? Okay, so I'd take that motion. Patty?
I'll second it.
Second from Michael. All right. Further discussion?
No, Seth, can I just thank Patrick Keene and David and Craig Flaherty and everybody else who worked on it with the Sewer Commission, because I know it's a lot of hard work. But in particular, Patrick, because he has had to pitch hit in a difficult situation for a chair who his wife was very ill and just passed. And so I just feel like we appreciate all that you did. And David, we appreciate all you did. So if there was any kind of miscommunication, again, I think it happened, maybe months ago as we were getting new chairs and, Public Works chair then was moving into a difficult situation. So thank you. And Patrick, big thank you for stepping up.
We'll figure it out.
Yep.
All
Good
right.
answer, my friend. Good answer. Beers to you for that.
All right, well, so do we have a motion and a second to cancel the March?
We do.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor, aye, please.
Aye.
Okay, Noes? I don't see any. Don't hear any. Abstentions? I don't see any of those. Okay, good. So we are not going to have an agenda for March 16. I put in a report from Technology Committee to give Lois a shot if she needed one. So, Lois?
Head now.
We're good.
Okay, nothing from them. I put the RTM members because we are still recruiting. Were there any RTM members that we need to assign to a committee? I hear none. Yes,
Has District 3 set a date for their caucus?
I have not heard it
Okay,
yet
because
because they're still discussing with 3 individuals, but I don't think they were ready to have a caucus yet.
Oh, okay.
How many openings are left?
They were supposed to have it before the RTM meeting, they went virtual. Yeah, and so they canceled it.
Are they having it then on Monday?
I don't know, but they were originally scheduled before we had the, we went virtual.
I don't think we have anyone in the room on three.
No,
So that's
that happened to be me.
Yeah.
No.
Is it 3 open spots and they're interviewing 3 people?
Well,
Or
there's-
is it 1 open spot? Do you know?
No, they have multiple open spots.
Okay.
But at this point, there are none. So
Thank
the
you.
Rules Committee does the assigning, so.
Okay.
Just a quick update on the district chair. Yes,
Since I'm here, I have a question from TGSNA, and that is at the, I believe, February Rules Committee meeting, you assigned the chairs of all the districts to hold caucuses to discuss the first selectman's request for
Right.
charter and ordinance changes, and TGSNA was kind of wanted to get a status report because we haven't heard of any districts
That's
meeting.
the
in that
next item on the agenda.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's next.
All right.
that's next. So the district chairs did meet. And it's recorded. It's actually, I saw us on television. So, and we went through all of the requirements because the districts don't meet on a regular basis and they generally aren't voting things other than replacing members. And that is done with a caucus, so you don't have the requirements for recording, for minutes, for so the district chairs, many of them are in a brave new world. And so I went through all of the requirements with them so that they would be able to know how to call a meeting, how to record a meeting, how to submit things according to FOIA. And then we talked about, well, how are you going to go about this? Because there are different ways that you could do this. The direction from the Rules Committee was to assign the districts to do it, but there was no description of just how they were to go about it. So we discussed how to go about it. And it seemed that because you've got 6 districts, and let's just say they were going to have face-to-face meetings, they'd have to book rooms. It just seemed that the best way to go about it was to have virtual meetings. So the districts decided that they would meet virtually to discuss it, and then I said, okay, well, when you have all of your suggestions put together, then we'll have another meeting and consolidate them. And they said, no, we'll have the district chairs will meet like we're meeting now once a month and go over what are we encountering, how's it working, and how do we adjust. So the next meeting of the district chairs is on March 26th.
Seth, I watched that
Yes.
meeting, and I think shout out to Pear, who's on our Rules Committee meeting, because he, as much as it was important to go through how to warn a meeting and all that stuff, he really talked about the essence of what Jay-Z was trying to have us review and get at, and then what our roles were. And he said to the district chairs, some that maybe knew, some might who have been around for a while, that there's some areas, obviously, that just fall under RTM and charter review and some that are separate. And so it
Right.
feels like there was in need of a follow-up type sheet almost of these are the things to kind of go through and review, and these are the things that don't fall under. Don't spend too much time on something falling under a certain Board of Ed purview that you're not gonna be able to make a difference on.
Well,
Would you-
yeah, we did discuss, I mean,
Yeah.
the Board of Ed is not included in this,
Correct.
and I think they all understood that. I think also the point of having the district chairs meet is they're gonna have a preliminary meetings to start here in March. And then having the district chairs get back together again and talk about, okay, here's what we're hearing. And, then tuning it to say, okay, well, these kinds of things are gonna fall out of it. But until in the first go around, you just want everybody kind of put everything on the table and see what it is that are of concern that they're hearing. And then you can start to parse it and say, well, okay, but the structure of the Board of Ed is just not.
But we have a
Not
deadline for this as well, right?
Yes, it's not they looked at the scope of what needed to be done and they're saying July 1. They thought that they would be willing to set that as a target date to get it done. And so we will continue to discuss that target, but at least we got a commitment from the district chairs who were running the show for July.
District chairs kind of really understood the mission more than others. And the ones that didn't understand it were actually saying, I don't get it, so can you explain more? So that's why I'm saying I hope we can follow up with some kind of tight up. No, Amy, help me here. What to go for?
It sounds like there was good points reviewed at the meeting. I don't know if Chat
The way you're saying that,
GPT log might be a good place to extract those
Yeah.
bullet points, or if Prepare was reading.
Are you saying that
list.
some district chairs left the meeting not knowing what to do?
Maybe they just weren't on the same page. Which is both ways. One might not have really understood what to do, and one wasn't on the same page.
Maybe
And
want to
so,
do something different.
I would encourage everyone to watch it on Rules, since we're the ones who came up with this idea, or, I
And
would
also
encourage.
in the first go around, we wanted to give each district the latitude to be able to approach it in a way that they felt comfortable with. The idea being to smoke out ideas and get them adopted as you can.
But for example, there was repetitive twice was, okay, if it's hard to get a dog tag, and I kept laughing that was what was used, because that's really so easy to get. Walk into Chris's office, you get it, boom.
That should
Why?
not be the example.
Why was that?
And
That's
that's
just what I'm saying. That is
Make sure it's not.
efficient. That is an efficient. I was like, let's
I
go.
know.
Well,
It could be better, definitely could be better.
but
It's harder.
just feel like
You have to make an
what was
appointment.
being asked of us
Get a
by,
marriage license?
yeah.
How often do you do that?
I've only been married.
Are you telling us something?
Oh.
Restricting, I think, restricting the discussion in the beginning is, I mean, other than the obvious, which is, we're not talking about the Board of Ed, but keeping the door open to find changes from different points of view. We sort of left it for the districts to kind of work through this themselves a little bit. And then we can come back and say, all right, this seems to be working, this doesn't. And you want to adjust the way you're approaching it to be more effective and to have something that would work. So, yeah, yes, Krista.
Just 2 points. One, the minutes of that meeting I just received today, so those are posted. So
Okay.
obviously anybody can watch the meeting, but if you wanted to get a summary, the minutes are posted. Two,
By Mrs. King, who was
Yes.
kind enough to volunteer.
yeah, by Ann King.
I think I'm suggesting that you talk to Mr. Adaletta.
But I would say watch
yeah.
the meetings, so then you can take away, all due respect, who's gonna, one District One's chair may be approaching it from a different direction than a District Six chair.
The other thing I wanted to add too is that, or also, you met on February, I'm sorry.
Inefficient, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah, no, her point was, it's okay to have different points of view, and Pear says that, and I agree with that. He says that in the meeting twice. The only thing is this gonna be rolling into 6 months and then a year, and then it becomes not efficient?
I was gonna say that I haven't seen an agenda or a request for a meeting of any of the districts.
Each district, I had a meeting with the three of the district chairs last week on how to handle the virtual recording, and each district has someone assigned to do the recording of their meetings. But they have to let Lois and me know, because we only have one license, so 2 meetings can go on simultaneously, as long as another committee isn't using it. So, but they also know they may have to use their personal license if they want to have that meeting at that time and we don't have a license available.
And our district.
We'll just have the challenge of getting the recording to Cameron to rather, they won't be able to put it into the RTM cloud, so the Cameron can easily pick up the meeting to post.
Okay, I just want to see, I haven't seen anyone
None
post.
of-
a
as
special
of last
meeting yet.
Thursday, none have been scheduled. Well, unless they didn't tell me.
Up today.
My district.
Says
I
there
have
on an
Jack-
email
Jack was on.
in that meeting, like 2
Jack
days
is-
later,
I'm
kind of
afraid.
recapping what occurred, explaining, and then said, let's try and book something between this window, and she gave out dates.
Okay, all right, good. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
I sent them out today,
Great
the
question.
most recent charter and code that they can use as a basis for if they need, well, they would want that as a foundation when they were looking at changes, so that they would have something to work off of.
Okay, can I ask a question on
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Because in that meeting, they talk about some of the items that we voted on at the RTM that have been changed are not changed in the official charter.
Yeah,
So-
but the official one has also, that we got from the printer, we'll call them the printer, Muni code. They also include items that adopted by the RTM, but not yet included. They have a whole section of that. If you look up on the website, you can see it. There's a section there of stuff that we didn't quite get this printed in yet, but this is what
But
was
it confirms that they were approved.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. So,
So Seth,
Yes.
is the idea that what you sent around to the district chairs, they will then send around, that particular document will be sent to every member. of the
Every
district
member,
when we
yeah.
set the
I told them to download it into a PDF and then they could distribute it to every member. Because you've got to have
So we gotta,
something.
well, I just want to make sure we're all starting with the same document.
Yeah, well, that was,
We're gonna divert, but let's at least start in the same place.
yeah. Oh, look, it's the RTM, everybody, So, yeah. I said, I also told them that they could pick their own chair if they'd like. They didn't have to use me. I could hear a pin drop on that one. It was very quiet, so I will continue to put them together and herd them and see if we can. And the only other thing was that on the agenda was dates. Here's the date that the Rules Committee asked for. What date do you think you want to put a peg in the ground and say, this is where we're shooting to be done? And they came up with July 1. So we have a commitment and before they got their feet wet, really. But they want to try and get it done before the end of the session, I think. So they put July 1 down.
Just one thing as far as what our starting document is, one of the things that confuses me personally about what's in Muni code is that for some reason there are certain regulations which are in that Muni code document, i.e. the sewer commission's regulations are in there, but planning and zoning commission's regulations are not. And I do think, I don't, again, not having seen what you sent out, I think we need to be careful that we don't, no one thinks that any of the regulations or anything that we can, I mean, we can obviously make suggestions to those, you know, but to the relevant committees, but that's not part of what is within the RTM's purview.
Right. Okay.
So we just have to be careful about that. One of my suggestions, just so we're clear, is that no regulations should be on Muni code as part of that document. They should all be on the, so I don't know why it is that I can't find the sewer commission regulations when I go onto their website, but that is, I will save that for my suggestions.
Can we talk? Yes, I am open to, my phone number is, I won't do that, but you all have it, and I try to be responsive. We're all paddling in a different canoe here, trying to get upriver. So, so that basically is where we are at the moment. It's at the nascent stages. I will call the districts to make sure that they're getting these meetings scheduled. But they were, I think at the beginning of the meeting, they were a little nervous. But as they got talking about it and working on it, they started to focus and say, okay, this is what we have to do. And, you know, when I asked them for a date at the end of the meeting, they kind of looked at me like, you're kidding. And I said, no, folks, you got to have an end game here. And so they kind of consulted with each other and said, okay, we'll go with July 1. So we'll just keep pushing it and try to correct where we see it, you know. It is green. The green team is out there, folks. These folks don't do this. They're part of standing committees. They're all part of standing committees and everything, but the caucuses and the way that caucuses work in the districts are, this is a new game for them. So I'm trying to help them along as I can.
But there's a lot of people in each district who have been around for a while.
Oh, yeah, and they were very
So
positive.
When we meet and we give our
Yeah,
feedback.
and everybody was very positive, I thought,
Yeah.
given the magnitude of what, you know, so I'm very pleased with that.
So will the district chairs be funneling the results through TGS&A? Is that still the plan?
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll give a report probably in September at this rate then, as to where we are.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, we had talked about June before.
Your
obviously
prayers
that's
are
not-
greatly accepted. So, yeah.
Okay,
No, that's the whole point. We get it all together and then ship it to TGS&A.
okay, we'll have a great summer working on
You
You
know.
might be October now.
it. Okay,
Yeah, my attitude on this is we're serious here about July. We've got to get it done, folks. So whatever it takes, let's not slip, because the most important thing is to get some ideas on the table so that they can get considered. And if it just keeps going on forever, we're not going to do anything that's going to get something done.
Has that timeline been shared with Jay-Z yet?
Yes, it's just the real world. He may have some before we do, but I'm hoping that by doing it this way, and I think we're right.
well, that was
aware of the timeline was my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my next question is, when is Jay-Z getting his suggestions to the RTM and TGS&A? Do we have a deadline for him or a
No.
target date?
Not, I haven't been setting deadlines for the first selectman yet.
Well, a target date.
Our dates up, yes.
So let's say, I'm just speaking for, because I'm in District 1, right? And so our leader, our district chair is organizing us. So let's say we do have the opportunity to meet the end of March and our group gets together and we go through and we all give a lot of feedback. And then she shares it at their next, we're calling it your district chairs meetings, but do we have to continue to be meeting if we gave our feedback?
That's,
I don't know how many times like the districts will want to. I think they'll all be actively wanting to get feedback. And again, via Zoom, so it's a lot easier, but
yeah, and I think the district chairs would say to their district, is that it? I mean, were you guys warming up, or is this where you want to be? And maybe even giving guidance. Well, that's a good start, but we need, there's a bunch of questions still that you might want to look at. So it's providing guidance as a district chair, I think, to decide when you finally, and obviously the district itself voting to say that, okay, yeah, this is it.
and I think there was also a discussion of like, let's say District 5 or 6. You might get a lot of the same things coming to TDSNA that you got from 1, 2, and 3, and 4, right? And so then you weed through it. And
Well, I
who
think,
decides what's a yes and what's a no ultimately in the end?
TGSA.
yeah, TGSNA would be one clear one. And hopefully there'd be some parsing so that if there are duplicates.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
Yeah.
easier part,
Right.
but it's
Well,
more of the, should we really push forward on this or should we not? Yeah.
Yeah, Krista, question.
Sort of picking up on Patty's point, were the directions to the district chairs that respective districts should be voting on a slate of proposals to move forward, or just collecting ideas to which to funnel to TGSNA?
It's,
Or is it at their discretion?
it's really at their discretion. Again, at this point, just trying to get people to get stuff onto the table, and then you can say, well, all right, this is what we got. This does work, this doesn't work, and having people agreeing that they want to parse it down to a set of ideas that are clear and distinct.
So the first culling would be at the district level.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay, and are they going to be bringing in the constituents, or is that at their discretion?
Well, eventually you're gonna have to have a public hearing. So there's a way to bring that
Okay, yeah,
in.
fair enough, yeah.
So
Right.
I didn't want to scare them with that.
And that almost feels like there was a long discussion about that, but maybe to have 6 different kind of public hearings for districts, you could do that, but if we're all then trying to cull it down to this, it feels like it should be one public hearing for what's being proposed.
Right.
Your thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, so that's my report. We will keep marching and let's see how it starts to shake out. I was pleased with the focus. I think everybody in the beginning is going, oh my God, what are we going to do with this? And then, but as I got talking about it and working on it, I sensed they were really starting to pull together and figure, okay, I can see now what we have to do. And, I think District 3 got off to a good start. And we'll push along with all the others and make sure they're getting it done. That's the key thing. Okay, so
Next up is
one second. Have a slight pause here while my computer pulls this back up.
future guests.
Yeah. I threw in here just if we should have future guests speak before the RTM, bringing us information from outside. I mean, I did it with people who chair up economic development in the towns of Norwalk and Stamford, but maybe there are other people that we might want as guest presenters, and I don't want to go down that highway unless, that's something that makes sense and it's something that you'd like to see. Because the people are busy and you want to bring them to a full house, and
That's a problem.
so that's it. Thoughts on guest presenters?
I mean,
Amy.
I would say in general terms, yes, but it does depend on who and what the topic is and how full our agenda is otherwise.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do that with my committee as well. We had Francis Pickering from West Cobb present
That's a good one.
this
That's a very
past
good one.
week, and
I was
actually,
gonna say, should he present to the whole RTM?
he's
Given where things are going right now?
It's fascinating. I'll just put a plug, if anyone's interested, watch that's all we talked about, basically was having him present at the last PZNH meeting, and it was about the housing legislation and what's coming, and it was extremely interesting, and so I recommend people watch that, but to that, my point being, yes, as long as it's sort of relevant and timely, we don't have too big of an agenda. I think it's a little hard to answer your question in a vacuum. But in general, yes.
If we had, for
Well, it's left to my discretion,
sure,
which I'm hearing. I would be happy to set it in and obviously you're gonna approve the agenda.
I would
so-
look at it from, are there people we want to have as opposed to, do we want to have guests?
Yeah,
I don't know who the,
Well, I thought
I
it's-
don't know who the business development people are, but I enjoyed when Stanford and Norwalk presented. Especially when we see where the traffic's coming from in town.
yeah.
and so maybe if people start to make suggestions, you have a list then, so when there is a lighter. If we hadn't canceled this meeting, this might have been the perfect time to have a guest speaker. So people would have come in and felt like, they had gotten more than just coming in, but running something up and then hit the road. So,
I wanted to throw out FOIA, the person from
FOIA.
FOIA who has spoken a couple of years ago, and there were a lot of questions, so I think
All
I'd
right.
love to see Russell Blair come back to the body.
The guy who spoke to us is retired, but the new guy is just as enthusiastic.
Russell is the new guy.
Yeah.
Tom Hennig moved up, I guess, to the commission and
Oh, I thought he retired.
from that role, but Russell Blair is great.
Yeah, he is.
He is, so that's another name.
So FOIA, COG. Yeah, the legislation that the governor finally signed put the whole question of affordable housing into the COGs to plan. So you have West Cog, Metro Cog is farther up the line. And so I did get it.
Watch our meeting, sort of.
I did go to a hearing, it was a conference put on by the Chambers of Commerce around Bridgeport, about 6 chambers, on housing in the state. And they had all the hitters there. So I put in a good word for Darien with the guy who heads up the housing committee. He was polite. I'll say that. So at any rate, it's good to hear what's going on because things are really active on the housing front. So, all right, so that's this is great. Put it out there and that's some great ideas. And I'll look to set those up. And rules will be approving what's on the agenda anyway, so.
did you see that there was an article in Stanford Advocate, Readers yesterday, that Connecticut has the most new apartments in the country.
You mean Fairfield County?
No, in the country.
Pardon
Pardon me? Oh, yeah, just in Fairfield County. I was, and they had charts and graphs. I had to go back and look at it twice. So, yeah.
All
Give you
right.
an update on the short legislative session.
Yeah,
And Seth, maybe also talk to like each committee chair, right? Because there might be a great opportunity for a presentation from some expert in Parks and Rec that's going to tie in with educating of us all as we do more environment. John is working on a conservation committee and things like that. Like I've been to the library presentation on the importance of trees, but it was an excellent presentation. Or the sustainability folks, because we follow the sustainability committee mission on Parks and Rec and everything that they're doing along the coastline. And we are a coastal town. So just some suggestions.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, sort of on that line, to the extent we have, in which we should have RTM representatives on various committees or commissions. I think it's important that we set a time for them to report back to us the way that Mark used to about Great Island. You know, we've got somebody on the Pear Tree Beach committee. I would like to hear that person come update us on what the status is.
Yeah, I was.
I mean, I think that's part of it. That's why they're the RTM rep on that committee. I think they should be reporting back.
I actually asked Adele, our chair, did she think it was a good idea to have Sandy come and present at this March meeting since it was a lighter meeting? And Adele thought it would be better to present in April because you're kind of coming towards the end of the project, but that's the end of the project.
It needs to get on the agenda. And it's
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to
So
do a
think
final
about that for April.
on HHR.
And so Seth, if you think about for April, the Pantry Point update from the representative.
HHR is coming to an end.
Yeah, and that might be the end of RTM reps on these, you know, he's not doing the
Yes,
sustainability or the sidewalk.
I want John has indicated that he doesn't necessarily want to assign people by where they're from. However, we do, I think, have someone on the sidewalk committee. And there's one other that I don't think there is.
Can you be clear on that? I think, I'm just asking this, so that he didn't want to feel like it has to be someone from Public Works on the sidewalk committee? Or does he not want any of the 100-body member?
He
On the
doesn't
sidewalk
want to pick people based upon whether they're on the RTM or not.
Correct, that's not a criteria.
I understand that, but is it you definitely won't be on if you're on the RTM?
No,
It just is not
Just not a criteria.
It's not us voting a person on.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
I
we
get it.
voted somebody on,
Yeah.
but I do think
I just wanted to clarify that.
RTM members can apply, but
Right.
they
Yes.
do not get a seat. They're not
I
guaranteed a seat
understand
at
that
the table.
part. I was asking the other part.
Lois would like to talk.
You could still,
Lois?
that's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Hey,
I
Lois, I don't mean to forget that you're there, dude.
Okay, I made sure you found me when I wanted. We don't necessarily have to be on the committee, but certain committees that are running, even if we're not on it, it might be useful to have somebody from the RTM, quote, participate and sometimes even report to the RTM, even if they're not a committee member. It's not every committee, but there are certain ones. If for some reason, you know, we didn't have anyone on Pear Tree, but that is something that's really important to us. Then we could assign somebody to it and let them report. I mean, that's a different role than a voting role, but I think the information is what we're trying to get out, not necessarily, you know, the vote.
Well, we could ask somebody from the committee to come in and present to us, but I do think, what I was trying to say is that I think that there's a difference between somebody being voted onto a committee that we as a RTM agree that that's the person who's going to be the RTM representative. That's a much more formal role, and they have a reporting obligation to the RTM when they're in that role. And I do think, my understanding is that on any building committee, there will be a person, that type of person, an RTM elected person on the committee, i.e. Pear Tree, which is a building committee. The other committees are handled differently, and people may apply, but they're selected by the Board of Selectmen, not by the RTM, because they're not an RTM representative.
And so if Great Island creates a building committee,
There
that
should
would,
be an
then there
RTM.
will be a representative.
We voted on that tonight. I understand, yeah.
Right. Good. All right, that's I think it. I think we've covered everything. So I would take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Rise.
Right.
Good night all.